Hi, and welcome again to Mark's Motivational Podcast. Today I'm joined by Jim Higgins. He's a really good runner, so I'm looking forward to speaking to Jim. So we have Jim on in a minute or so. So thanks a million, Jim, for taking the time to come and talk to me on the podcast tonight. Mark's Motivational Podcast. Cheers. Thanks. So today we're joined by Jim Higgins from what's the name of the club again?
Sorry. It's Brothers Pierce. We're based in Knockline, South Dublin.
Yeah. So you're very welcome along, Jim.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah. How are you getting on yourself? All good?
Grant, I suppose like a lot of people, I'm working from home since last March. So I'm certainly not as active as I would have been beforehand. Previously you're going in and out to work, and you're getting a little bit more exercise, and even at work you're getting up to go to places, etc. So I'm probably a couple of pounds heavier than what I was back then. Before what I was back then. But otherwise I'm going okay.
That's good.
Probably tempered my running a little bit as well. I've given it time. I have a few injuries that I've decided just to give them a little bit of a rest, but not a complete rest. I'm still running, but not doing the heavy stuff like you would say if you're training for a marathon, etc.
Yeah. I was going to ask you that, Jim. How are you coping with things like? Do you find yourself running less now because of the lockdown?
Yes, less. Probably not because of the lockdown. Less more so to do with from the injuries, but with the lockdown, I kind of decided, I'm going to run every second day, and I tend to do that in the mornings. Other than now, at the moment we're in level 5, so there's no official club training going on. The only alternative, or the only time I would differ from a morning run, if there was a club session on, back when we were in level 3, etc., and previous to that. So essentially, I've been tempering it just to tie in either with a club session, or else just literally get out of bed in the morning and just go off and do whatever it is, 8, 10K or whatever takes my fancy.
Yeah. Would you start off early in the morning, Jim, or would you be?
I do. I'm a fan, and always have been a fan of running first thing in the morning.
Okay.
I've done it for years. Even to the stage of some of the long runs for the marathon, I would do that literally first thing in the morning as well.
Yeah.
So it'd be a case of getting out and getting it out of the way, so to speak. So it's something I'm well used to, and I suppose part of the benefit is that you enjoy the breakfast all a bit more when you've had a good decent run and a good shower and a shave type of thing afterwards. So you appreciate it all the more.
Yeah, and do you not find yourself, because I've tried that before myself, like running first thing in the morning. Maybe you're so used to it now, but the energy wouldn't be great for me. I always find lunchtime better for me. Everybody's different, but how do you manage that?
Yeah, well, it's I suppose part of the reason is a habit, and one of the, I suppose, the thing that motivates me in a little bit is part of the habit. But one of the things I do is I kind of get the runners and the shorts and t-shirt and plant them there beside me in the morning. So when I get out of bed, they're staring there looking at me. So it and in some cases you might get up and say, oh God, am I running this morning? And there they are. And I suppose, Mark, you'd appreciate being a runner yourself. Like the hardest part of doing the run is actually putting the runners on. Deciding that you're going to go out, but once you go out the door, and even if the rain is pelting down and the wind is blowing at you, once you get going and once you get into it, and I suppose like a lot of runners, you'll probably appreciate that once you get into a run, and certainly the last third or quarter of a run sometimes is where you'll enjoy the most, but where you'll also perform the better. I've if you look back some of my Strava runs,
I was looking at that.
I find that the latter half of the run is usually better than
it is.
Than the first bit. I think as a lot of runners, if you're disciplined enough to sort of say, well, I'm going to go, be it every second day or every day or whatever your program is for. If you're disciplined enough to get out and going, I think ultimately you'll be always glad that you did. You'll always feel better particularly after you've finished.
Yeah, because the endorphins and all that kind of stuff kick in, like the Yeah.
they kick in, yeah, and
Yeah. Yeah.
that's always a great feeling.
Yeah.
And I suppose like any runner, I think it does more for up here in the head than it does for down in the downstairs in the body.
Yeah.
And
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. It's great.
yeah, and particularly in this time now where I'm sitting in a small little room at home, and I'm
Mm.
kind of here all the day, and this is my work schedule. So it's great to get out for
Oh God. Yeah. Yeah.
blow the cobwebs and to do it.
Mm.
And I suppose the mental bit from running for me is as important really as the physical bit.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think it has been a huge positive impact for me down through the years.
Mm. Oh yeah, brilliant. Because are you how are you in that club? Are you kind of a director kind of thing in the club, Jim, or what are you just a member or
Well, I'm actually the chairperson,
chairperson?
and
Sorry, yeah, that's
and
my
have
asking.
been for the last 4 years, and even before then I was previously the PRO and a committee member. So I've been very much involved with the club,
That's great.
and
Yeah.
it's kind of a sense of I get a lot out of it,
Oh
so I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
mind giving back in.
Mm.
I'm due to step down as chairperson in the next time when we get around to organising our postponed AGM. But I'll
Mm.
still have an active part to play, and I'll still contribute and help out in that because,
Very good. Yeah.
as I say, I enjoy it and I get a lot out of it. So I don't mind putting it back in. And like every sporting and amateur organisation, you need people to step up and do a few bit to help out.
Yeah, yeah.
And obviously, the more the merrier. It makes it handier and easier for everybody.
Yeah, very good, Jim. Very good. And how did you yourself get interested in the running yourself, Jim?
I suppose initially background when I grew up and in my 20s, I used to play a lot of football, a lot of Gaelic football.
Yeah,
And I was always used to, I suppose, training Tuesdays and Thursdays and a match at the weekend type of scenario. So I
yeah.
did that till I was in probably my early to mid 30s,
Mm.
and then stopped playing for whatever reason. And it's been maybe 2 or 3 years where I did actually, very little in terms of exercise.
Yeah,
And I eventually, ironically enough, I got started running. I actually started hill running in terms of taking part in races before I started any road races.
you didn't start
So
easy, so
well,
yeah,
sometimes come down the hill is much easier than running
it's
on the road. But
not. Yeah, yeah.
no, just eventually I was brought. A friend of mine when brought me out to one of the races organised by the Irish Mountain Running Association.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah.
Their website is imra.ie, and it's
Mm.
a great organisation. It's very cheap to run. Very, the races are during the summer are organised on a weekend and basis. So, and there's something special about running out in the hills. So that's kind of the first couple of races that I actually
Mm.
started, and then eventually started doing some road races. And my next, I suppose, the big influence was with the Business Houses Athletic Association. At the time I was working with AIB and I represented the AIB team,
Yeah.
and met a lot of good friends in that, as the same as I did with the mountain running. And so kept at that. And then eventually I started running a couple of marathons. But in hindsight now, I wish I kind of knew then what I knew now in terms of training and
Mm.
etc.
Yeah.
But probably the biggest influence in my running life was to come in the fact that I joined the club in Brothers Pierce.
Mm.
And at the time, back in when was it, 2010, I think it was, we just had a handful of adults. The adult section was, had been dormant for a number of years, and it was just a juveniles training. But there was a fellow called Peter Vincent started reigniting it, and I knew Peter through the business houses, and
Mm.
he basically invited me up for a couple of runs on a couple of evenings, and essentially got the bug because I enjoyed. There's a great people in Brothers Pierce,
Great. Yeah.
and thoroughly enjoy the company there, and have a lot of very good friends there.
Mm.
So that's kind of how it started. But having the influence of the club, like in terms of training, in terms of support, etc., has been a huge influence, and it basically has improved me. I mean, I was previously running marathons. It was, looking to get under 5 hours, and eventually I'm up probably won't run any more marathons at this stage. Right, but I eventually managed to get one under 4 hours, so I was very pleased with
Well
that.
done. That's brilliant. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was basically, the advice that you in terms of running, the camaraderie and the friendship you have. There's nothing like going for a long run with a bunch of people from the club, because long runs with people are an awful lot shorter than doing them on your own.
Oh God, yeah.
There's always that. And, the thing with clubs is that you'll do sessions and trainings, that you just would never do on your own.
Mm-hmm.
And then you will do sessions at paces and sort of speeds that you wouldn't do on your own. And sometimes you don't even know that you're doing them.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
just going along with the crowd type of thing.
Mm.
And add in sort of as I said already, the friendship and the experience that you gain from other runners.
Yeah.
To me, anybody who is even just half or remotely, and they don't even have to be serious about it, there's so many advantages for all runners of all abilities and
Mm-hmm.
sizes, so to speak, to join a running club. There's so many advantages, and it's not as if like you're a football club and you have to turn up every Tuesday and Thursday in order to get your place for a match of the weekend. You
Yeah.
can come and go as you please. You can take part in the sessions. Um, Obviously, if you're a very good runner, elite runner, yes, probably there'll be a little bit of pressure to keep under a program, etc. But
Mm.
it's very much, it's very much something that's probably not spoken about as often as it should be in terms of the advantages of joining a club.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would say to anybody, anybody that listen to this, if you're anywhere in Knockline or South Dublin, come down to Brothers Bears, and we'd certainly make you welcome and just enhance your running experience. But in general, join a club that's local to you, that's that is near you, that's where you can have a regular attendance, etc. And you will benefit from it. You will benefit greatly.
Yeah, that's great advice. That's great advice, Jim. Thanks very much for all the listeners got great advice out of that. But yeah, it's funny you should say that. Like, I think it's fascinating to me that anybody I really speak to, and I including myself, who's a runner, everybody seems to have that little gap in between it, like whatever they might have done when they're younger, like be it running or playing football or whatever
Yeah,
it is. But like it's
yeah,
like yourself, I used to run when I was a kid, like when I was younger, and nothing too competitive. I used to always love running out into the park and all that kind of stuff.
yeah,
But then I had a gap in my 20s where I'd done very little, and then
yeah.
something got me to go again, and in a big way in the running. So it's just funny that a lot of runners seem to have that little gap in between.
Yeah, people do.
Yeah.
I would sometimes joke that I found out that I was useless at golf.
Yeah.
I was never much good at with hitting sticks with small balls and all that sort of stuff. So that's why I kind of sort of lean towards the running. But certainly, yeah, you're right. We certainly in Brothers Spears, we have a good number of people who may have been active or may not even have been active in the past, and they're now settling in, and they're enjoying the newfound freedom and the new fitness, and we haven't even spoken about all of the health benefits that people get from being fit and well, and being strong, and good. Your running is great for the lungs and the heart, and all of
Everything.
the
Yeah.
other muscles that it does.
Yeah.
And we've mentioned the mental benefits that people get from their runs, and and again, that's not to be underestimated.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And like you mentioned the BHA races, I think they're really really good because I've been involved in them for a couple of years myself. Like it's kind of
Oh,
awkward
very
when you
good.
have kids, like
Yeah,
you tend
yeah,
bringing them to more places than you do going yourself. But no,
yeah,
the BHA races are really good if anybody's listening. It could be a small company you work in, but it's a great motivator, isn't it, for people
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
to go and do these races, isn't it?
Yeah, I fully agree with you, Mark. They're great organisation. They put on good quality races. Back in COVID days, but they're also good at the social side of things. There's
Yeah.
always a cup of tea and their famous brack and whatever else that you may be having. So they're good to mix in after a race. Because it's nothing else. It's always nice to have a cup of tea or coffee after a run. In any case.
Yeah.
So they do it very well. When you join as a member, it's only a tenner per race
Mm.
after that, and even if you're not a member of a particular organisation or thing, you can slot in, and they do have, for instance, they have I think the hotel group, and then they have the construction group and such like that. So, and some other different types of groups. So if you're not in a company that is represented by the BHA, it allows sort of people to essentially walk in the door and take part, and you can be slotted into a particular group. Also as well, I mean, I've been involved with organising the AIB race. It's a cross-country race in Maynooth over many years with again with my
I like that one,
with my friends and colleagues in AIB. And like half, for instance, half the prize money goes out. Sorry, half the prize money goes out in team results. So you can be part of, a tenner in an envelope or a pair of socks, but sometimes there's some very good prizes being given out, which are, some companies are able to sponsor some things better than others. So it's certainly it's like BHA and the Irish Motor Running Association are my two favourite. I've got many friends, met many people over the years in both of them, and I know a good number of people who run with both organisations, but they're very very well organised, and a great race for somebody who may not have ran a race before to join in on without any of the huffle and puffle that you get with some of the more prestigious road races. So I would certainly encourage anybody to look them up, and to take part whenever we get back to having races again.
Yeah, that's great advice, Jim. Thanks very much. That's great. Another thing I was going to ask you, how many have you done many marathons yourself? Have you done many marathons?
I've done 12,
Wow.
and that was over the years, all in Dublin.
Okay.
The nearest I came to travel is about 20 of us in the club went to Barcelona a few years ago. We were on the half marathon there.
Okay, yeah.
So funny enough, I got my best time. Barcelona is a lovely flat course
I heard that,
to run. So, but we had a great weekend. But in terms of marathons, they've all been in Dublin. But I can also say to anybody who either has ran marathons who would probably appreciate it. Of those 12, I think possibly 2 and maybe 3 are ones that I was actually pleased with, that I thought I ran well. 1 or 2 of them I just hadn't trained properly. Back in the early days, that was down to a lack of knowledge, more so than me not being prepared. But certainly, there's 1 or 2 recently that in the last number of years that I ran, that in hindsight maybe I shouldn't have bothered running, because I didn't get the proper sessions underneath me, and I kind of feel it's a race that's not to be underestimated. You do need to put in the work, but what people forget is that when you do put in the work, and when you are coming to the particular day itself, you will enjoy it a lot more, and you'll have a lot less pain going around.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Yeah,
because
no, I'm sorry, Jim. I've done 2 Dublin marathons myself, and I always remember the first one I did. I hit the wall at 22 miles, and it was like, I don't know if it ever happened to you before, Jim, but you actually feel like crying because you put so much into it to get so far, and then you have to stop. I was like, oh, like it brings tears to your eyes. But it's just the way you were saying earlier on about the second part, you actually won better. But once I got going again and got my momentum going again, I was able to finish, which was a really great thing to finish our first marathon. It was like, it was great achievement.
Yeah, there is something special about finishing your first marathon. I don't think I've ever, apart from when I went under the 4 hours, but I think my first marathon was certainly very special. Back in the day, it came up the Quays and turned into Abbey Street and came up and finished on O'Connell Street. Yeah. And I almost remember every step of the last 200 meters, because the crowds were along the street, and the announcer actually announced my name. He obviously saw my number and whatever. So I got a great thrill out of that, and it was a special memory. Like sort of, one that I won't forget. Now in saying that, I was absolutely dead after it, but I certainly enjoyed the experience, and it was certainly a great feeling.
Yeah, no, well done. That's some achievement. You said 11 marathons, was it?
12.
12. Well done. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
I was trying to do you one there, Jim. Sorry.
I'll do everyone. Yeah. I sometimes have to think about that myself. Yeah, but yeah,
But
I was just when I say marathons, I kind of, I suppose there was a focus. You know, every year you took out your plan around June or whatever, and looked at it and made a major training plan out, and it began to become a habit. But one of the when I talk about marathons, it was 2017. I was actually going well training wise, but I actually decided I wasn't going to do the marathon, and I
okay,
actually concentrated on the shorter stuff. And so I did a lot of the hill runs and concentrated on the start of the year, and then sort of went at the shorter distances. You know, do in terms of training, I was doing 400, 600, 800s, and you know, sort of that type of fast training. And I remember got a PB and the Rathfarnham 5K that particular that that particular September.
brilliant.
But it
Yeah.
was because I took the focus off the marathon and
Mm.
get away. Didn't do any of the long runs, just concentrate on the short stuff. And I think sometimes marathons forget about that there are other races to run and
Yeah.
targets, and it gave me sort of a freshness
Mm.
to just to continue and do something else. And I must say I thoroughly enjoyed it and was delighted with the way it turned out.
I think that's great advice, Jim, because even the likes of anything for motivation, it's good to kind of whatever sport you're doing, maybe to mix it up a bit. Like, you know, like you
Yeah,
say, instead of doing a major thing, do all different small kind of stuff, and it can benefit you more, and you can get more of a variety out of it as well, can't you?
yeah, absolutely. And in terms, I think I'm lucky in that I have a strong focus on running the hills. You know, I'd run 20, 22 races every year with Emirates, and that's not in the times where I might just go out to the Hellfire or Tree Rock or whatever just for a run by myself or run with friends.
Yeah.
So having that mix of running in the different surfaces, different areas is great, and it just adds a freshness to it.
Hmm.
And I think sometimes, you know, as runners, like everybody, we can become creatures of habit, you
Hmm.
know. So, and you know, while at the moment, say for instance, I can't get out to Tree Rock, or you know, maybe I could get to the Hellfire if I stuck it, and that might be within my 5 kilometer limit. But I think as runners, if we, you know, even do things like vary the routes we do, or run at different times, or see, you know, freshen it up some way, I think
Mm.
is
Good idea.
will
Yeah.
be a huge benefit to people.
Mm.
You know, and again, coming back to the being involved with a club, we've a brilliant training committee who, you know, suss out our training sessions for the coming 3 months. And you know, we know what we're doing every week in terms of a session. And one of the things that they've been very good at is introducing a variety of sessions, a variety of different types of sessions for every week. And even within those sessions, you know, we'll try different things and do them differently or in a different location. So, you know, variety being the spice of life is a huge thing in terms of running.
Yeah.
I mean, for instance, one the times when I would be running in into work, into town, into work, you know, I'd be trying different routes. So when Harold's Cross Road one way
Mm.
and Rathmines Road another day,
Yeah.
type of thing.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Yeah.
even things like that, just to
Mix it up
change
a
the
bit.
scenery
Yeah.
and just get it in different dynamics is always a huge benefit in terms of running.
Yeah, because I think it's great, because I think it's important to be in a club for people, because I run on my own a lot, but I joined Tala there last year, yeah, last year, and
Yeah,
like I found it great, you know, because like you had a structure there when you were in the club, like doing the track, like
yeah,
the trainer was telling you, don't push it, like just stay at your own pace as you're going,
yeah,
because everybody has a tendency of starting off too quick, especially
yeah,
especially when you're doing 400 meters or 800 meters. Like, I think it's great
yeah,
for people that join a club, because they give you that so much good advice for, like, because when you're running your own, you haven't got that advice. You're just running,
yeah.
and you don't know, you're not gauging it really. Sure enough.
Absolutely not. And it's one of it's something that we'd be very focused on in Brothers Pierce, in terms of new people who come along. And it's not so much to, you know, we'd be holding them back really, as opposed to,
Mm.
you know, pushing them on. And that's because, you know, people tend to just go hell for leather if they're in a particular session. And I had a bit of advice once about that, you know, in terms of doing reps, etc. You know, you should always just stop when you think you can do one more.
Very
and
good.
it's been always good advice, and particularly for the likes of myself, being an older runner, it's something I'm getting more tuned into in this day and age. To me, I prefer to be running for as long as I can, even though I might be getting slower and all the rest of it. And even if I'm not able to take part in competition, the enjoyment I just get for just getting a run in itself would be what would be important to me from a long-term point of view. So that's kind of why I'm getting more focused on taking it easy and not making sure my rest days are rest days and this sort of stuff. I think a lot of people forget that after you've done a good hard session, be it in the gym or the track or the road or whatever, your muscles are need to recover, and it's that recovery process that actually helps them build. And if you're constantly beating the crap out of them and running hard every day, they're not going to recover, and eventually they're going to say, "Oh, I'm fed up with this," and you're going to pull some muscle, you're going to do damage. I think that people need to be, to treat their rest days as rest days, and to focus in on the recovery bit of it. And I think a lot of sports people forget about that, be they footballers or runners or whatever. Forget about the importance of actually resting and recovering, so that you can get out and do more the next day.
Oh, that's great. That's great advice. Yeah, because even for like the likes of warm-ups, could you give any advice about people that a good warm-up regime that you could kind of adapt to? What do you think of that? Like the best kind of warm-ups?
I wouldn't classify myself as a coach or something, but
Okay, sorry.
I think but in essential, but the answer will be on the basis that your warm-up should be a dynamic warm-up. And obviously, in terms of a run, probably the first thing you do is you go for a nice gentle jog initially. But there are stretches, but it's not so much standing and stretching. I wouldn't advise that, and it's something I've never really done. Even back in my footballing days, we're never good at stretching, and it's not good to stretch your core muscles. So after you've kind of warmed the body with maybe a short jog, there's a number of dynamic exercises that you can do, which could be walking lunges or leg raises, etc. And again, looking in the club, we have a few people who will take those on before a session and bring people through it. So it's only a matter of just following the leader, so to speak. So
very good.
It takes the thinking process out of for all of us that are there at the particular session. But the important thing to me would be have it as a dynamic warm up that progressively gets you stretching more and more. But avoid a static warm up where you're just standing stretching. That just doesn't work.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, because just if you're saying to kind of start off kind of slow, maybe a slow walk or a slow jog, just to you feel yourself kind of warmed up, and then start your do a gradual thing. That's really good. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. And just to mention as well that the other end of the session, when you've finished, particularly the hard sessions, or if you're in a tough race, it is important to get the heart rate down and a gentle jog. Even sometimes with the likes of a marathon. Now, I've never been able to take a small jog after a marathon.
No, me neither.
But what I mean is certainly with a marathon, I would say keep active, keep the moving going a little bit. Do take your rest and keep it moving forward. The shorter races, I think certainly going for a light jog just to wind down and just to get the muscles sort of relax a little bit does help the recovery process for those things. So for the shorter races, a little jog. Marathon, again, once you get your liquids and stuff up, but keep moving. Do a few little stretches, but remember, I suppose the theory would be that for every hard session or race, it is good advice to warm down gently after in any occasion.
Yeah, that's great advice. Thanks, Jim. That's very good. Just wondering, I was going to ask you there as well. I think the clubs are great for the young people as well. I think for the younger runners, I've got kids that I try and my daughter, she's 10, and I bring her down every so often. Like it's just not now I can't with the COVID. I try and bring her out for little runs myself. But it's kind of awkward. Like I think everybody has this problem being a parent, trying to keep their teenagers interested. They're great when they're younger, like because they're go with me dad, but now they've no more interest in the man in the moon. Like I know you have a family. Did you have that kind of problem as well, or?
I did most of I've three boys and a girl, and certainly two of the lads played soccer. One retired when he was 13 or so, and the other managed to keep going till he was 17. So I was delighted to see that. I think it's certainly the younger children, and Kate, the young girl, she played soccer up to this year. And then she kind of didn't really enjoy it anymore. So, but in fairness to her, she tried it out, and she's very good at her, playing the piano and that. So that's her interest at the moment. But essentially, I think with children, they first and foremost they have to enjoy it. It's something that they have to have, they have fun at, and I think athletics are probably better installing the fun bit at the younger groups as opposed to maybe the field sports. And it includes soccer, rugby, and Gaelic. I think there can be sometimes too much of an emphasis, on the winning bit. And sometimes that's probably not the probably not the clubs or the organisations themselves. That as a lot of it can be down to the parent who kind of wants their little Johnny or Mary to be the next brilliant footballer or sports person. And I think sometimes some parents do push their kids a little bit too far. So I think the important thing for any parent, and you'll probably appreciate yourself, Mark, is that children need to enjoy sport, and they need to try all sorts of sports at a younger age. Find your to concentrate on a particular thing, be it football or running or whatever the case may be. But I think at the early ages, the enjoyment should be the first thing, and once they get that, they'll keep at it, and they'll enjoy. They'll get more benefit out of it.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, thanks for that, Jim. Because all I was thinking was I tried my kids out a lot of stuff when they were younger, like karate and running and the football and all that kind of stuff. So like you can't really force them back into it. My son is 15 now. So what you can kind of hope is you can kind of they see you doing it, and eventually when they get a bit older, they might say, "Oh, I remember I used to do that years ago. I might just try that again. I used to like that." That's because by trying stuff with your kids at a young age, at all this give them kind of different options. Something might just click. One of their friends later on in life might say, "Oh yeah, I might join that," and they might come along and say, "Oh yeah, I did that before." Do you know that?
Yeah, like I think. Yeah, I think it has to be something that they enjoy, that they get a kick out of. I think all sporting organisations will suffer, particularly with your 15-year-old, and when they get a little bit older, say when they finish their leaving cert and they're going to university, there can be other distractions and other things that take up their time. So it can be difficult to keep people involved. Sometimes I think the general participation bit isn't encouraged enough. So in terms of just having people, at that age, just taking part and going for runs, or maybe just playing five-a-side soccer or Gaelic or whatever it is. Sometimes a lot of the sporting clubs will be concentrating on, winning the local championship, winning this, and that's fine. That sort of competition is good. But maybe it's something that the likes of our government officials and all that can look at and sort of say, well, I think to me the important thing is to have as many people involved in participation. As I say, I'd be a crap golfer, but if I was playing, at least it's something I'm getting out to. So I think there should be more encouragement to participate in sport, no matter what level you're at or what sport you're doing, as long as you're actually doing something. And I think you think of the benefits. If you have most of your population either playing a match or once a week, or running 2 or 3 times a week or something, or even just if they're hiking, anything they're doing where they're staying fit and healthy, the ongoing benefit of that in terms of healthcare and all that sort of stuff down the road is immense.
Absolutely.
So I think as a nation, we probably need to encourage people to, for instance, to be more active for starters, but certainly to get more involved in in participating in some form of sport at some sort of level and at some sort of capacity. And I think the benefits of that would be huge in society.
Yeah, no, great point, Jim. Yeah, great point. They should really look at stuff like that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, thanks. Yeah, thanks a lot for coming on tonight, Jim. Let me just ask you, half marathons, that's one of my favorite things to do, is the half marathon. Because because you're not like, I've been away to a few places like Amsterdam and just around the country, Galway half marathon. I think the half marathon is a nice pace, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's a nice run. You know, you've done a damn good run when you've done it. But at the same time, you're not going to be, half dead a week later type of thing. So I enjoy them as well. And I mentioned Barcelona years ago. It's one to keep in mind. It's a lovely flat one. So whenever we get back to running again, I think have a look at it. It's worth it's a great city to visit, and a very well run marathon.
There's some great. Yeah, that sounds good, because there's some great ones even in Ireland itself. Like there's the Corker Cove one. Did you ever do that one?
I did the Corker Cove once, again with my colleagues in AIB. We drove down and did it on a Saturday morning. It was a great race.
It is.
Bit hilly going into Cove, but the last bit downhill was lovely.
Did you enjoy that hill at the end? You know, the hill that you walk up to get the cup of tea and the cake. It's the hill of Cove. Did you remember that?
I tell you, I struggled with that bit, but yeah, I managed to get off. I think it was actually a little bit more painful coming back down again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I enjoyed that. It was a good number of years ago now that it ran.
It's worth doing, and for the listeners, there's so many great ones in Ireland. Like, and it's a great social thing as well. Like, for your friends to go and do it, for seeing different places. It really is, isn't it?
Yeah. Again, I think it's something I'm trying to encourage in the club would be to go down. For races, even just in the likes of Leinster. So, a lot of us go to the Bormine Half Marathon. We've been to the Trem, Mullingar, places like that. A lot of the country clubs, the clubs in Leinster and indeed the clubs across the country, any race that's organised by an athletic club, in vast majority of cases, is well organised, well run, no messing, and it's well worth the money that you spend on it. And it's a good thing just to even to get into the car for an hour with a few people and run the race and have the bit of socializing afterwards, and you meet other people from other clubs, etc. And
it's great.
And come back. So yeah, like I agree, and I think your 10-mile half marathon are certainly distances that I enjoy running, and would continue like to run more of them.
Yeah, like you really miss the races at the moment with the pandemic, don't you? Like,
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I mean, since the pandemic, I think I got out to one Emirates mountain race, and it was well organised. And I kind of actually thought that a running community, both in business houses, Emirates, and some of the clubs, could have put on some races with certain conditions. Emirates organised it very well. We had masks at registrations. We wore masks for the first 200 meters of the race, and then we would take them off because we were spread out once we started.
Very good. So,
and I thought obviously there's no real physical contact in the actual sport of running compared to the physical contact that you have at a GAA match or a rugby match. Probably to a lesser extent soccer, but I think the risk was probably lower there. But in fairness to the two organisations, they made a call, to cancel them in the greater good of the fight against COVID. So it's probably the better call in the end.
Yeah. Well, please God, like hopefully things are starting to look a bit more brighter with the vaccines. Like let's hope so. I hope in the next couple of months things do get better. Like my heart goes out to anybody suffering at the moment with COVID-19, with the health aspect, and then financial aspect as well can be very tough on people as well, can't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think we'd all like to get back to what we used to call normal. So I think we'd all have a desire for that from all fronts, from work, play, everything we do.
Yeah. But listen, thanks a lot, Jim, for coming on tonight. I might just finish up by asking you three questions that I ask most people that come on the podcast. Okay. Nothing too tricky or anything like that, but just the first one is, do you have a favourite book you read? Do you have a kind of a favourite book that you've read or a favourite author?
No, I read. I don't have a favorite, but I read across broad spectrum of things. I like some autobiographies. I like
Very good, yeah.
some fictional novels. I like thrillers, and also sometimes I read a book in terms of improving on a particular skill that I have. And I always enjoy reading books on running. But no, I don't have a favorite, but I have a good
Okay, yeah.
broad spectrum of
Oh, very
running
good, yeah.
of
Great.
reading.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I think sports psychology is a great thing as well, isn't it? Like sports psychology can be very good for runners, for any sports person, that can't
Any
it?
sport, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, I mean, any sports person, I think, in terms of performance, there's so much of it,
Mm,
upstairs in the brain and the
mm,
motivation and the pushing, as
yeah.
opposed to, no matter how fit you are,
Yeah.
yourself, if you're in racing terms, if you're bursting a gut and you have 300 meters to go, you
Mm,
need to pull a resolve from somewhere to ignore the pain and just go over
mm,
the line. And same it
yeah.
is, if you're playing football or whatever.
Yeah.
You just need that extra incentive. And not even incentive is a bad word, but I can even think of some. But you need the extra bump to
Yeah.
go and
Yeah. Yeah.
to be that bit better and than the person beside you.
Yeah.
So the motivation is a huge thing in any sport.
Yeah.
Um,
Big time. Yeah.
Big time. Even
But-
golfers,
Yeah.
need it,
Yeah. Yeah.
because even though it's not the same type of thing, they just need to be
Mm.
their motivation would be, being more focused and from
Mm.
all of that.
It's like I had Ronnie O'Sullivan, not Ronnie O'Sullivan, wish I had Ronnie O'Sullivan on the podcast,
Yeah.
Fergal O'Brien on the podcast before.
Oh, very
And
good. Yeah, yeah,
he was very good. It was a great chat as well. Like
yeah,
he was saying he really uses the sports psychology when he's playing snooker. It's a really big thing for snooker players.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like he really explained that well. Like I can't remember what book he mentioned, but I'll try to find it and put in the show notes. But there's some really good books out there. Like even for the likes of runners, I heard before, if just say you're running and you're training, you can kind of put
Mm,
as if it's an actual race. Like like just people. I don't know if I'm coming across wrong, but if you think it's like a race, then when you do the race, it won't be such a culture shock. Like you'll be more used to the competitive
yeah,
thing. So that
yeah.
can be good advice as well, can't it, for motivation?
It can, and at the same time, you must remember that there is a sort of a saying, and particularly running thing, is that you should never race in a training session.
Oh yeah,
You
okay.
should always do the training session as so. If you're doing a tempo session, it should be at a tempo pace, which is obviously what
Mm,
that 5 or 10% less than a race pace.
okay.
And it wouldn't be a good idea to, for instance,
Mm,
race beside the person, or to race the person beside you,
no,
coming up
no.
to a sprint or something. So it's in terms of the training bit, it would be probably best to stick with the parameters of the session that you have.
Yeah, yeah, very
But at
good.
the same time, even doing that, involves the motivation and the psychology. So,
Mm,
you need to be working on your pace. You need to be thinking all the time about what you're doing.
yeah,
So it
yeah.
probably sort of manifests itself in a different way, not
Mm,
necessarily being the fastest, fittest, or strongest, but working at the session as defined by your coach. So I think that's where the psychology would come in and work better.
yeah. Mm,
And sometimes as a coach might say to the to the runners, want you to go all out, in this last 100 meters, or whatever the case may be, and that's
mm,
fine. You
mm-hmm.
then just go and do that.
Yeah,
But ultimately, stick to the session as designed by the coach.
yeah,
Work at it from what they have said, and I think that's where you get your psychology to work with you to perform better in training, and then subsequently then reap the benefit of in a race later on.
that's great advice. Thanks very much, Jim. Yeah, that's brilliant. And moving on. So, what would you have a favorite movie?
Yeah, there's two movies I like that are both musicals. One
Okay.
is the Blues Brothers.
Oh, it's a great film. Yeah, yeah, it's a
Um,
great film.
it's a brilliant film. And the other is the Commitments.
Oh
I
yeah,
could sit down and watch that, and again, I think it's because of the music. It brings it back.
yeah. Roddy Doyle
But
is brilliant, wasn't he? Roddy Doyle, the films
Roddy
he.
Doyle's great. I've read a lot of Roddy's books, and
Yeah,
I love the I love the Dublin slant that he has on everything, you know.
Yeah,
But that's where I got into the Blues Brothers is back in the day when I was sharing a house with a few lads in Ballantyre. We used to go down to the local video shop on a Friday or Saturday and rent out a movie. And if there wasn't that there, we'd get the Blues Brothers.
Yeah.
And eventually, anyway, one of the nights we had the Blues Brothers, the tape bloody well got stuck in the thing and it got mangled and torn, and we had to tell your man that. But we reckoned anyway that he had made enough was out of us, because we were one of the few people who used to take that particular copy out.
Okay,
it was certainly a film that I never tire watching.
Brilliant, yeah, it's quite sorry, because that used to happen to so many people years ago. I remember that well, the videotape rattling on.
Yeah, the videotape. You remember, and people might remember what that was, but it was the hiring it out from, I can't remember what the local video shop was called in Ballantyre.
Probably Charpos or something, was it?
Oh, I can't remember
like that. Yeah, that's gas, sorry, yeah. But and then, yeah, thanks very much for this. So, would you have a favorite band or musician? Like, what would your favorite music be?
I like a lot of the Irish artists. Now again, you know, I'd be a fan of U2. I like Christy Moore.
Me too.
I like bands like the Horslips, Rory Gallagher. On an international stage, you know, I like Bruce Springsteen, bit of Def Leppard. Anything with a good vibe, a good beat. You know, hard to describe what I would describe as good music.
It'd be very similar myself, but very similar taste there. Because Christy Moore is brilliant live, isn't he? I saw Christy a few times.
Yeah, I've seen him a few times as well. Over the years, my particular favorite was one of my friends. We went to watch him in the National Concert Hall many years ago, and we were placed directly behind the stage in the concert hall.
Yeah.
So at the end of some stage or some during the night and thing, Christy turns around and he said, "I'm going to turn my arse onto to the rest of the audience, because all these people up here have been looking at my arse all night." And he sang 2 songs facing up to us at the back of the audience. There was only whatever it is, 4 or 5 rows at the back of the thing, but it was we thoroughly enjoyed that. But again, I would have seen Christy over the years. I'm originally from Mayo, so I'd seen him down in Castlebar and stuff like that.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah.
You know, and when he was in, I saw him once playing in Planksteo years ago. I think I was probably too young to appreciate it, and I saw him playing with Moving Hearts and I can't think of the other band that he played with. But no, sorry, there was another band that I liked that Chris, I was always associated with Chris, but I just can't think of it at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've seen him play, and I, you know, over the years, and certainly one of the all-time greats, one of the legends.
Yeah, great showman. Like he really gets the crowd going, especially with the Joxers. Remember that one, the Joxer song? It's brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah. I remember actually being in the concert in Lisdoon Varna when he played the Lisdoon Varna.
Wow, great! Yeah,
it was completely different from what it actually ended up getting recorded. But that was a special memory. But I do know, I mean, his favorite sort of an audience is one that basically shuts up and listens to him.
Yeah, he makes them. He makes them.
Yeah. He doesn't like the sort of the background noise and stuff like that, you know. And I can appreciate that, because I remember concert Castlebar where he cut it short because basically the crowd was humming and hawing type of thing, and there was a bit of noise and thing and stuff like that. So it was probably wasn't one of my best memories of when he did, but as a performer, I can understand where he was coming from. So, but he's special.
Brilliant. I actually went to see a really good concert there a couple of years ago. You mentioned Def Leppard. They played in the Tree Arena, and Tin Lizzy were backing them up as well, and Alice Cooper.
Lizzy,
it was a brilliant concert. Were you at that? Were you?
No, I wasn't at it, but Tin Lizzy back in the day would have been one of my favorites.
It was great, and it went on for ages. Like, it was one of the best nights, because every song everybody knew. It was just one of them great gigs, you know. Because I think they call it the Tree Arena or the O2 or something.
It was the Tree Arena back in the day. Yeah, I remember. I remember it well. Oh, sorry, it was the Point.
Point, yeah. The point.
The
That was
point
the
before
point.
it
Yeah,
became the
yeah.
free
I
racing.
always know it was the point. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's true
yeah,
actually. Yeah.
yeah.
Bit like the Aviva and Lansdowne Road.
But listen, I really enjoyed tonight. Thanks very much for coming on, Jim.
That's all I enjoyed as
Yeah,
well. Now.
but hopefully I'll see you at BHA race fairly soon.
Yeah, hopefully,
Yeah,
sure. And
yeah.
you
Yeah,
know,
I think the
and
K Club one is really good, isn't it? The K Club one, I really like
K
that one.
Club is excellent. Yeah.
Yeah,
Great feed
yeah,
after it, and
yeah, yeah.
again, well organized. But funny enough, what people forget about, people think of that when they talk about the K Club, but it's actually the route itself is for 10K is quite flat
It is, yeah,
well
it's
worth
great.
it. It's
Yeah.
one where I've ran my better 10K times, but it is a great race. So hopefully we'll see it back as long as with some of the other great BHA races.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
sure, we probably could run Pats as well, because our two respective clubs sometimes have we'd originally arranged to have a cross country race between us before COVID hit us there in September. So there's a good relationship between Tala and Brothers
Yeah,
Beers. Good
yeah,
plenty of
yeah,
rivalry there as well. But
yeah, yeah.
good, we get on well together, and a
Mm.
lot of our friends, our juveniles, train in the track at Tala on a
It is good.
on a
It's a good
Saturday
track,
night.
isn't it? It's a really good. It's a good club as well,
Excellent track,
isn't it?
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, Tala are lucky to have that.
yeah.
Brothers Pierce are getting council are developing a grass track for us down in the
Okay.
Dodder Valley.
All right.
So we're hoping to get into that now within the next 18 months or 2 years.
Oh, very good. Yeah.
It's currently been, we think it's been seeded at the moment,
All right.
and so
Yeah.
we're waiting for that to be developed and
Very good.
to settle in. So at
Yeah.
least we'll have something we can call our own, and
Yeah. Yeah.
and develop on for that, because we're just a bit tight with facilities at the moment, particularly for our juveniles.
Mm.
Our adults, there's plenty of scope to join that if anybody's interested, but juveniles, there's waiting lists in
Yeah.
terms of what we
Same as
can
talent as well. Yeah.
etc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just one more thing before you go, if you could kind of in a couple of words to motivate people to take up running, or for kids to get interested in running, what would you say to them, Jim?
In terms of kids, which I mentioned before, really, kids need to be doing something that they enjoy.
Yeah.
And this is probably true of adults as well. We have a great mantra in the club in Brothers Spears about, we have to enjoy it, no
Yeah.
matter what level you're at. And a lot of our sessions, there's plenty of slagging going on, and plenty of making me taken out of people, but it's all a good nature, and then it's
Yeah.
there to enjoy. But so definitely for me, I think I think the focus on kids should always be that they're enjoying what they're doing, and to make it enjoyable. And say in terms of football, kids, when they go to training sessions, all they really want to do is play a match at the end of the session.
Exactly.
That's the thing that they enjoy.
Yeah.
We know that they need to develop their skills, and same in terms of athletics. They need to work on various things, but I think if you try and do it in a jovial way, that they get enjoyment out of it, and that they enjoy being with the others, they enjoy the sessions, they enjoy coming down, I think that's really where you're really reap the benefits.
Yeah, that's brilliant, Jim.
And as a parent, and last thing, as a parent, then I think people should, as a parent, I think we should be encouraging our children to enjoy what they do, and to to work at it, but to enjoy it at the same time.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thanks very much. It's like the same as any walk of life, trying to make fun out of things, because if you're I said in another podcast before, if you're working in a job that you find boring or monotonous, if you make a kind of a funny spin in it, it'll lessen the chore. It's important to kind of try and make every situation good,
Yeah, I agree. I think you have to enjoy it while you're whatever you're doing, or life is short and all the rest of it.
Yeah. No, thanks very much, Jim, for coming on tonight. I really appreciate it.
That's all, Mark. I enjoyed
it. Very much, and the best of luck stay safe through COVID, and hopefully we won't be too much longer in this.
Yeah, hopefully, Mark, and thank you for having me, and I certainly enjoyed it. And
yeah, I really enjoyed it. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye now.
Yeah, thanks a lot for listening to the night's motivational podcast with Jim Higgins. I really appreciate you coming on, Jim. I really enjoyed the interview. So the best of luck with everything, and good luck with all your running adventures in the future. Okay, thanks a lot. Take care, and thanks for listening. See you real soon. Good night.